Nicole? Yes, sir. How did you get this number? Off the Rolodex in the principal's office. How's your ankle? Douglas sneezed twice. He did this instinctively when he didn't know what to say. God bless you, said Nicole. Thank you, said Douglas. He glanced around as if expecting his apartment suddenly to fill with students. How's your ankle? It's all right. I banged it on my radiator. Really? The truth was, Douglas had slipped in his shower like an elderly person. Yes, really, Nicole. Do you know what's happening to my ankle as we converse? No. John Stapleton is licking it. He likes to nibble my toes, too. Douglas blinked several times. John Stapleton is a domestic shorthair. Sometimes he licks, other times he nibbles. I see, said Douglas. There was a substantial pause. John Stapleton is a cat, said Nicole. Of course, agreed Douglas. Do you enjoy gnocchi? Douglas set his essays on the couch beside him. Pardon? Gnocchi. Italian potato dumplings. We had them for dinner tonight. Father makes them by hand every Thursday. It's the only thing Father cooks, but he's good at it. Douglas crossed his ankle over his knee. So, do you enjoy them? Gnocchi. Yes. Yes. Yes meaning you enjoy them, or yes meaning you understood what I was asking? Yes. I mean, yes. I like them. Nicole Bonner laughed. When should I start hearing from colleges? She asked. It's nearly April. Douglas was relieved at the topic. Any week now, but you'll get in anywhere. It's all about what you want. I want Princeton. Douglas imagined Nicole sitting on a dorm bed, reading, sipping soup. He imagined baggy sweater sleeves covering her wrists. Did you know that John Stapleton is toilet trained? Douglas laughed out loud. Once. This usually only happened at the movies, if he was alone and the film was absurd. Toilet trained, meaning what? Meaning that he uses the toilet, like a human being. He crouches on the rim of the bowl and does his business and presses his paw on the flusher after. He's very tidy. Nicole, said Douglas, it's the truth, sir. It took Father eons to train him, but he did it. We don't even have a litter box. Father was a Marine. Douglas checked his watch. John Stapleton's an unusual name for a cat. He's an unusual cat, said Nicole. I think maybe I should hang up now, Nicole. Why don't we talk in school tomorrow? All right, I don't want to inconvenience you in your evening time. It's all right. Really? Well, what I mean is it's no problem, but we'll talk in school tomorrow. Inevitably, said Nicole, and she hung up. Douglas had written Nicole a letter of recommendation for Princeton. In the letter, he'd said this: whether she's tearing across the field hockey grass, debunking Whitman, or lecturing me about Woody Allen films, Nicole exudes an irrepressible spirit and a generous, unguarded tenacity. She reads an entire novel every night, not to impress anyone, but because she loves to do it. She is organized, clever, and kind-hearted, and once she knows what she wants, she will pursue a thing. A line of argument, a hockey ball, a band to hire for the prom, with a charmingly ruthless will. Douglas prided himself on such recommendations, on making his students shine on paper. It was one of the few vanities he allowed himself. When it came to crafting words, written or spoken, Douglas felt that he'd been blessed with a knack for always knowing what to say. That was why, the morning after his call from Nicole, Douglas awoke feeling flummoxed. He'd spent 10 minutes on the phone with a 19-year-old girl and tripped over his tongue the whole time. During the night, he'd also dreamed he'd been walking barefoot down a beach with Nicole. In the dream, she wore a lowrider black bikini and a lovely blue scarf in her hair like Jackie Kennedy. Douglas, meanwhile, wore green Toughskins jeans and a shirt made of burlap. Every time the waves washed over their feet, Douglas scampered back and yelled, "Beware the manatees!" It's ridiculous, thought Douglas. Embarrassing. He put on a smart coat and tie and decided to give the girls a pop quiz that day. At school in the faculty lounge, Douglas forced himself to make small talk with Cheryl, the suede-clad mathematician. When the bell for his AP class rang, Douglas strode into his classroom with confidence. "Mr. Kerchak?" Meredith Beckerman jumped from her desk. "Jill's going to ask you to come watch softball today, but you promised to see our forensics meet against Regis. Do you remember?" "I remember," said Douglas. "Suck up," Jill told Meredith. Meredith glared at Jill. "Avaunt and quit my sight." She sniffed. Douglas surveyed the room. His AP class consisted of 6 girls, the brightest lights in the St. Agnes senior class. They were Meredith and Jill, the arguers; Rhonda Phelps, the bombshell achiever; Kelly Demers, the agnostic; Nancy Huck, who was always on vacation; and Nicole Bonner, who sat by the window. "Where's Nancy?" asked Douglas. "Bermuda," said Rhonda, "snorkeling with her aunt." Jill tapped her Othello script. "Can we discuss the last act?" "Desdemona's a dipshit," said Meredith. "Meredith," warned Douglas. He glanced at Nicole, then Kelly. They spoke the least of the 6. Kelly because she was cultivating spiritual fatigue. And Nicole because, well, thought Douglas, because she was Nicole. The look in her eyes when she stared out the window reminded Douglas of when he was a boy and he would gaze at his mother's dressing room mirror, wondering who lived on the other side. "Vocab quiz," said Douglas. The girls whipped out pens and blank pieces of paper. 3 synonyms from Latin roots for bellicose, Douglas thought out loud. 2 antonyms for abstruse. 1 example of synecdoche. Extra credit, list 4 books by Melville. You have 5 minutes. The girls began writing immediately. Douglas watched them with fondness. They were gifted young women, and they would all conquer this class, every literature class of their futures. He passed among them, staring at their bent heads, at the roots of their hair and their earlobes, wondering how many had prom dates, how many might end up teachers, how quickly Rhonda would marry. He rolled his eyes at Meredith and Jill's papers. Each of them already had 7 synonyms for bellicose. Kelly was finished in 3 minutes and was now drawing hangman nooses, her trademark, on all her letter T's. Then Douglas looked over Nicole's shoulder. Nicole's paper was in a band of sunlight, and on it she had written no vocabulary words whatsoever. She was, however, busily churning out sentences. Douglas watched and caught his breath. Nicole had written, verbatim, from memory, the entire first page to Moby Dick, and was still going. Douglas waited to see if she would run out of steam or turn her head to look at him, but she didn't. He tried to recall if he or any other teacher at St. Agnes had ever asked the girls to memorize and recite Melville, but he knew this wasn't the case. He leaned down. He could smell Nicole's raspberry shampoo. He scribbled in the margin of her paper, "This isn't what I asked for." Without glancing up, Nicole crossed out what he'd set down and wrote, "It is a far, far better thing that I'll do."